You're going to start?
It's March. It's March. I've started. It's March. And hang on, someone's silence turned up. Oh gosh, I'll let him in. It's March the 9th. Welcome to Random Dialogues March. And the crew here just in time. Thanks for showing up.
All right.
We've just blurred our backgrounds. We've all blurred our backgrounds using the settings feature to blur.
Oh, well, I thought I'd show. Hold on, I can't hear a bleeding thing. Hold on.
Yeah, you can be sort of high def.
Is that better? Yeah. Sorry about the mess, but no one's watching anyway, so it don't matter.
Well, it doesn't look any different to usual.
No, that is true, Phil.
I know. Actually, I would say it is.
Could you just blur yourself?
Wouldn't that be really funny?
That'd be great if you don't blur the background, blur yourself.
Me. Oh, that is genius.
That would be cool.
Nice one.
Well, one thing I do with my on Zoom, and I presume you can do that now with this. If you've got a green screen, you can pick the colour. Then I used to, with my magician's hat, I used to actually put the stars in the. I used to put the sort of like the starscape into the hat. So you have the stars on the gold stars, but the blue of the hat. And my auntie, when I was 80 something like that, I had a call with her, and she had this bright pink top, little knitted cardigan, but bright pink. So I showed her how to do it, and so she then used to Zoom with all of her friends all over the world. And they're sort of 80 something or other, and she said, "Look, I've got my star jacket on," because she'd have like just a jacket with all the stars in it, so she could move around. Had that sort of that sort of starscape thing, and yeah, fun. But one time I put my hat on and clicked on my wizard's hat. And the person on the other end was actually the number 2 in the magic circle.
Wow.
Well, I was looking at the appointment. I couldn't remember who it was, and then suddenly, oh crikey! And then what happened was I said, "Oh, I just realised who I'm talking to," and he said, "It sounds like I'm taking the Mickey." He said, "No, don't worry, I'll go and get mine." So we had this very strange conversation. That's very good. Yeah, Jason's got the hang of this.
Oh wow.
Excellent.
That's good.
That's really excellent.
I just tried to do mine and knocked myself off the whole thing. How did you do that?
I can't tell you that, Jay, because that's all my secrets then.
But I'm banner.
Yeah, you should know these things.
Well, it looked at one point that there were like 2 people viewing, and now they've all gone.
Oh my god! Because that's strange. Because the minute I walked on, actually, that one person might have been me.
Yeah, I think the other one was probably me.
And the other person may have been Mike, who was here and now isn't.
Oh, where's Mike? I like him. Where's he gone?
Yeah.
Well, he was having trouble with his tech.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also another thing I've noticed is if you click full screen, you get us just on the screen, just nothing else. It's quite interesting.
Right, so Random Dialogues is about speaking up to share something. These monthly events are speaking up to share something you'd like to speak about that you feel passionate about, and or not, or just saying something in your heart, or just having Q&A time, or just turning up, showing up just because it's fun sometimes.
Sorry, I'm just trying to do it now. I'm obsessed by this background thing, and I can't do it again.
So I know that there's one person here who'd like to practice something for for another speech they're giving next week.
Oh, who's that then?
That's me.
Oh, you. Go on then.
And for some reason, I've lost my picture.
We can
yeah,
see
but it's all a blur, which is fine. So you're good.
I can see you.
Look, I've got blurred thumbs.
As the time goes by, we're just blurring. Oh God, it's really annoying me.
Okay, shall I start then?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Kick us off.
So I'm going to just talk about my early years.
Right, before you begin,
Yeah.
I'm just going to remove you from the screen and I'm going to put you back
Forever.
again
Forever.
forever because I think it might it's gone a delay thing at the moment. Let's put you back in. Right, let's try that.
Okay. Can I start again now?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is my early years, and if you've got any questions or you want to chip in, please feel free to do so.
How early?
Well, I'm going
Started off
to start
one.
with the earliest memory I've got of working, of having a job. Okay, so my earliest job, I would have been 5 years old.
Chimney sweep.
No, I was no. I was paid a threepenny bit, threepence, for every bucket of horse manure I could collect from the to go on my grandmother's roses. And I used to collect the horse manure after the milkman had gone up the road with his horse and cart, and also the rag and bone man. They did particularly good manure. So I used to save up my threepenny bits, and then I progressed around about age 8. I had my first real business. I was manufacturing. I went into manufacturing and I made figurines from plaster of Paris using rubber molds.
Oh yes.
And I used to make these and then paint them quite in a lot of detail. And then I went up and down the road, and sold them to people in the road. I did quite well with that.
I remember having one of those, and it was Snow White and Seven Dwarfs.
Oh, right, yeah.
Plaster of Paris kit.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
The lovely plastic molds.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Well, they were rubber, sort of very flexible. Yeah, a bit like the silicon molds that you get. But I also did a bit of. I worked for my grandmother on a Saturday, and I suppose I'd be about 9 or 10, and there's a market in Sheffield where I'm from called the Sheaf Market. It's an open air market, but it's in a walled area. So I used to go down to help my grandmother on a Saturday. Of course, I was always in the way, so she kicked me off the stall. She sold Irish linen, and I used to wander around the market, and I loved the atmosphere and the stalls and these guys with they had the people were selling dinner services, China dinner services, and they pile them all up on their arms and throw them up in the air and catch them, and quite entertaining. But I remember there was one particular stall that I really liked, and it was the jewelry store, and they sold paste jewelry, brooches and necklaces and bracelets and all the kind of stuff that Jason makes.
I'll sell anything at the moment, so I don't mind.
It was very, looking back, it was ridiculously gaudy stuff, but I thought it was wonderful, and I remember saving up, and I spent a huge amount of money for me at the time, which was half a crown, on a brooch for my grandmother. So I bought this brooch and presented it to her, and she thought it was wonderful. So it was a very strong memory for me. But I'll come back to that later. It's a particularly interesting point about the jewellery and how I was impressed by this jewellery store. Anyway, then I did. I sort of got a bit older, and I got into car washing. So I used to wash cars for neighbours. And then my first, I suppose, product that I invented was I invented a game. I remember I was in my last year at in my junior school, and I invented this game. It was a bit like Conkers, only you used lollipop sticks. Remember those the flat lollipop sticks, and the idea was that one kid would hold the lollipop sticks in two hands, flat, and the other kid would get his lollipop stick and try and break the other one down the middle using the edge of his lollipop stick. And it caught on, and they were all playing this game. And then, because what I did was I collected lollipop sticks and bundled them up and then flogged them in little packets. And I introduced this game at the senior school because I was moving up to the senior school. I introduced this game there, and during the summer, before I started at the school, I gathered up hundreds and hundreds of lollipop sticks. And I had all these bundles of lollipop sticks, and I did really well in the first term. I used to sell all these lollipop sticks. Then I'm just catching up with myself. Yeah, I got old enough to do a paper round. I don't know how old they have to be these days, but I think I would have been 12, 13, something like that. And so I did a paper round every morning, except Saturdays. But I did every morning during the week and Sundays. But on Saturdays I did a butcher's round, and I did all that for a couple of years, and I did quite well. You can earn quite a lot doing these little jobs. So by the time I was, this takes me up to being about 15 years old, and because of the way the school year was, my birthday's in July, so just after the end of one term, I left at age 15. I left school at age 15, and then a month later I turned 16, and I got my first proper job. And I was working in a retail shop. It was an old-fashioned suburban department store, small department store, and I was in the menswear department, selling shirts and cufflinks, ties, and that kind of thing. And I remember they had a really weird payment system. So a customer paid money, you wrote out a receipt, you bunged the money and the receipt into a little cylinder, and it was whisked off through a vacuum tube system right around the shop into the account department upstairs, and then they would, if there was any change, they would send it back down. Really strange. I've only ever seen it in one other place since then, and that was a big department store in Oxford Street that used to be called Bourne and Holmesworth's. They had a system. But I earned more before I left school than I did when I got a job, because I was doing all those jobs. Yeah, I remember my first wage packet. I got £5 a week. Then I got bored with this retail shop, and it was a job that my father got me. It was a friend of his who was a director of this company, and he got me in there because he wanted me out from under his feet, I suppose. But I got myself a job, and I saw an ad in the paper for an engraver. This is with a very well-known, quite a well-known silversmith's factory in the middle of Sheffield. And I thought, because I've been quite good at art at school, I thought, maybe I could be an apprentice engraver. So I got on the bus to go down for this interview, and I got the advert with me, the paper with the advert in it. I remember seeing that there was another job advertised in the same place, but not for an engraver. It was for the assistant manager in the silver hollowware department. So I thought, well, I quite fancy going for that instead. So when I got there, I said, I've come for the assistant manager's job. And they said, no, we've got you down for the engraver's apprenticeship. I said, no, you've made a mistake. And anyway, I got the job as assistant manager in the silver hollowware department. And I was assistant to a guy called Cluffy, well, Mr. Clough. And I learned something from him. It was quite, I don't think I could do it now, but back then it was quite a thing. Cluffy was well known to be able to put a whole sentence together and make it meaningful, swearing every alternate word. It was
I
quite.
can do that.
Well, it's not that easy. It's not that easy. You can't keep it up for long, but he did. And I remember I was sent the first thing I was sent to do, because I used to have to go to all these different little workshops. It was a fascinating place, a very sort of Dickensian building with higgledy-piggledy stairs everywhere, with the wooden stairs that were bowed from all the footsteps over hundreds of years. And I was sent down to the stamp shop. And the stamp shop, there was a great big machine with this big guy, very muscular guy. He used to have to pull this pulley and lift a weight up, and then you bang it down and stamp a shape, probably a spoon or a fork or something like that. Anyway, I went down there and I said, well, Cluffy sent me down for the long stand. He said, yeah, hang on a minute. 10 minutes later, I twigged that what the long stand
And striped paint.
Yeah, you didn't have to go and get a cap full of nail holes.
No.
Yeah, or a long wait.
Yeah.
So if there's I think there's a couple of people sort of viewing in. Thank you for being here with us.
Oh, yeah.
If you're just viewing in, and Phil's practicing a little talk that he wants to develop for another
talk.
event. Yeah, so it's a bit more than 6 minutes, Phil. We might have to.
Oh, right.
Normally it's 6 minutes each, up to 6 speakers, but we've kind of like gone off cuff anyway with this one
got
tonight.
up to the age of 15.
So
I can stop or I can carry on. Or
Yeah, I think I've
we've had your time.
Yeah.
So,
Save it up, Phil.
do you want more? Do you want more?
No, it's 15 minutes.
Oh,
How long's your talk next time?
4.5 days.
Half an hour.
Okay, well, that's all right, isn't it? That will be half an hour. You can...
I thought when he's talking about Threepenny Bits, I thought you were going to talk about jumping in the back of the van with the Miss England, Miss Scotland, Miss Wales.
Oh no, that's not in this section at all. This is
That's
the
not
early
in this
years.
half-hour slot.
Early years.
He hasn't even got to 18 yet.
No. He hasn't got a puberty yet.
When I were a baby.
Yeah.
Anyone got any questions for Phil?
No, definitely not.
Well, I was just coming up to something that was really, really interesting.
Well, we'll let you in a minute. Mike, how are you?
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you
You
better
can,
now.
loud and clear.
Yeah, good. I'm fine, thank you. I'm actually quite tired, so I'm just sitting here relaxing and not feeling that I have to do anything apart from just be here and enjoy. So
Okay.
I was delighted by Phil's things, like number of connection there. Bourne and Hollingsworth, yes, I know about that, and the tube with the money in it. There was an even,
Yes.
and I was thinking there was an even earlier version of that in the London suburbs where I grew up, which was you had wires in the ceiling of the shop,
Oh yes.
and the customer paid, and you put the money into the pot. You screwed the pot into the thing on the roof, pulled the line, and it whizzed away to the cashier. And
Wow.
that was instead of the vacuum system.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I think
I'm-
I've seen a vacuum thing. I think I have.
Yeah, because they have the little tubes with the padded bits around the sort of felt bits on the either end,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it depends on the colour where it's meant to be going to. And you used to put it in, and just and it, yeah,
I keep thinking of Are You Being Served while we're talking
That's
about.
what
yeah, it's
It
absolutely.
was very similar to that. Yes, very much like that. Mm. Certainly, Bourne and Hollingsworth was, because I ran an in-store shop there for a while. I was working for a suede and leather fashion company. We had in-store shops all over the place, and one of them was in Bourne and Hollingsworth. And
Where,
Wait.
that
where was
two-
When is this time-wise, Phil?
Oh, that would have been in the 1970s.
Okay.
Yeah.
By which time I left the UK.
How long have you been out of the UK, Mike?
I left UK on August 30th, 1970, since when the country has been going to the dogs rapidly downhill all the time.
Since you left.
1970. I was 22 then.
Wow.
You've kept your accent.
I've spent quite a lot of my time being paid to use English. Actually, I've lived on the language quite a lot, not all the time, but I've been an English teacher quite a lot of the time.
Did you ever come back here?
No.
No, good. Yeah.
When the kids were small, my kids were born in 82 and 85, then we did sort of like, that was fairly regular. And in fact, back in about 10 years ago, I was in and out of England all the time doing courses and visiting mates and visiting my daughter who was studying in London at the time. But no, since the daughter left and pretty much everybody I knew has died, very few people. I have very few people that I'm in any way close to in the UK. So no, I'm just living happily as a pensioner on the farm in Sweden with my chainsaw and my boat.
Oh, wow.
And
Perfect.
Where
Your
did it all
boat?
go wrong?
what?
Your boat.
I missed the question.
Oh, Jason, what did you say?
No, I said, where did it go all wrong then for you, Mike? What a lovely life you got there, mate.
Are you using irony? It's late at night here. I'm sorry. I'm an old man.
So,
No, he's not.
No, I mean, I think life's been pretty good. I mean, I really don't complain. A couple of great kids, a couple of great marriages. 3 or 4 of them. No, 2. No, 1 only. No, I think I'm quite glad of the decision. I think particularly from the point of view of the children. I'm quite glad my kids were brought up in this country, which is very, very children friendly. We looked when my son was about 2 years old and my daughter was in utero, as it's called. She was a lump in her mum's tummy. And Mum actually went over to England to sort of think about, should we bring the kids up in England or should we bring the kids up in Sweden? And her very firm decision was that it would be Sweden, because she just thought that children weren't that well treated. And I'm quite glad. Yes, big country, lots of fresh air, lots of countryside, not particularly liberal. Don't come to Sweden if you want to have a high level of intellectual life. Like, forget about it. But it's got a well-functioning welfare state, and then you can travel to England to have a holiday if you want to, and go to the Panto and go to the pubs.
Nice. Phil, do you want to finish your story?
I can tell you.
I'm
some
sorry. I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt.
just stop me
No,
when
it's
you-
not. No, I think that
it's
was.
good. It's good.
Oh, my
It was
battery's gone
interesting.
into cloud drive, into
It's actually
saver
interesting.
mode. No, it
So,
is, and I just thought it might be good to go back to the. It might be a good opportunity to go back now to finish the talk, and then.
So there I was at the silversmiths, and
Sorry, can I just say, you know, you mentioned about the all the old workshops and all the stairs
yeah.
and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my beginning in life.
Oh right, really?
I used to go up all those different old workshops for many years, and all the little alleyways and all the old stairs. I always remember the staircases, always,
Yeah.
and how dangerous
So I
they
remember
were.
that there was two characters. There were lots of characters there. The main characters were, there was one guy in the silversmithing shop where they did some lots of the jewellery benches that you work out, with the
Very
shabby
well.
liners and the
Very
cutouts.
well.
There was
That's what
one
he did, didn't
guy
he?
who looked identical to the young, who was in Steptoe and Son, the son in Steptoe and Son. What was his name? Harry Corbett.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Harry H. Corbett.
Harry H. Corbett.
Harry H. Corbett. Yeah, he looked identical to him. You couldn't tell them apart. It was uncanny. And he was always very successful with the ladies, particularly in the buffing shop.
A euphemism or something.
They were a right filthy lot, I can tell you. They were
The
in
workshops are always everywhere.
always than one. Anyway, while I was there, I had 1 day a week at Sheffield Art College to learn silversmithing, practical silversmithing. Even though I was on the management side, they wanted me to do that. And my teacher was a guy called David Mellor, who became a very famous silversmith and designer. And I think he's got shops in London, and he's got a famous workshop in Derbyshire now. David Mellor.
I've heard them.
Anyway, he taught me silversmithing, so I was learning things like
Wow.
hand planishing and making bowls in copper and stuff.
Tap,
But
tap,
I
tap,
didn't
tap,
like
tap.
it was dirty in there. I didn't like it there, so I
Lovely
went to work.
places.
I went to work for a company called Walker and Hall, who were another famous silversmithing name, but they opened a very exclusive modern shop in the middle of Sheffield, and I worked there. So I went into retail, and I remember I had to learn, I think, 76 different styles of cutlery or designs of cutlery, and I learned all about Rosenthal China. They had a Rosenthal China studio. I learnt about Paul Storr because we had Paul Storr replica stuff in there. That was all very interesting. That was while I was there. I remember Kennedy was shot. That's a memory. So I don't know what year that was, but it gives you an idea of when I was working at Walker and Hall in Sheffield.
64? 63,
Yeah, sometimes 64, 65, 66, something around there.
Everybody remembers where they were when he was shot.
Yeah. And I was just down the road from Sheffield City Hall, which held about 2,500 people. And I remember going to see Bob Dylan there on his first tour of Britain. That was pretty cool. And then they moved me to Leeds. The Walker and Hall people moved me to Leeds. So that was my way of getting out of Sheffield. So I was there 17 years old by then, and sharing a flat with a couple of other guys, having the time of my life, I have to tell you. Well, it was pretty cool because we were in this small 3-story block of flats, and either side of us were very big blocks of flats. But on one side, it was a female student hall of residence, and on the other side, it was a nurses' hall of residence. And they were having parties all the time, and we did quite well. We were in big demand, yeah. but while I was in Leeds, I moved from the silver world of silver and cutlery to jewellery. I went to work for a company called Collingwoods, and Collingwoods had a chain of about 60 different jewellery stores up and down the country, and I ended up with them as a troubleshooter, going around lots of different shops and helping out where they got problems. And while I was with them, I was sent down to Torquay once, which was great. I loved it down there. And I was down there because the manager had been caught thieving, and they had to chuck him out. And the place was a mess. I had to go down there and sort it out. I was there for 3 months.
Oh, I've got loads of stories of people doing that in my business.
Oh yeah. So anyway, they then moved me to Letchworth in Hertfordshire, which I hated. I loathed it. It was terrible. I got so fed up with it. I packed my job in and went back down to Torquay without having a job to go to. It was very daring. And I ended up working the summer season in a discotheque. So I was working in a disco, and I was living in a hippie commune.
Wow.
That
Now
was pretty
that's
cool.
interesting.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
no, it explains everything.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. That was good. That was very good. And then at the end of the summer season, I decided to get back into a proper job. So I went back to work for Walker and Hall. Yeah.
I would have stayed in the hippie commune.
Yeah, well, I nearly did.
I've done the jewellery shops. Definitely, I could tell you, hippie are better.
So anyway, I think I'll wind it up now. I think I've taken too much of the stage, so I've got loads more.
You've taken all the stage.
It goes on.
You spoke about like the characters you met, and it just reminds me of this totally opposite character to the one you know, and I've forgotten his name, and it's really he was one of the last and best guys who used to make a particular kind of wedding ring, which was really popular and still is, but he handmade them all, and he had all the machines and everything, all the dyes and the cuts and everything. And he used to walk around Hatton Garden, and everybody used to order the wedding rings from him. He used to make them by the dozen, and he looked like he didn't have a pot to wee in. If you saw him in the street, you'd think, "Oh, poor guy, give him a break." He possibly was one of the wealthiest guys in the industry.
Wow.
He was so filthy rich. It was. I mean, millions and millions. I mean, he was a real character.
He wasn't called
Mitzi. His name was Mitzi. He was, and
I knew a character like that in Hatton Garden called Mr. Music.
No, that was probably a bit before my time. So this guy used to walk around, and he never washed. He never cared. He never got married. Never had children. He walk around with plastic bags, and he was loath to buy anything. But there was a couple of guys like that, all very similar in character.
Where I grew up, there was like a rag and bone man. He wasn't actually rag and bone as such, it was just a little shop where they had junk on a table, and you could buy things like sort of taps and washers and all sorts of, even actually it was actually rags for doing stuff. And his wife ran it was an old dairy just opposite, and we used to go in there as kids, and there was a lot of schools coming around, and you're only allowed two in the shop at the same time because you go and get your sort of pennies worth of blackjacks and all these different sherbet dib-dabs and all sorts of things. And when they passed away, they were multi-millionaires.
Oh yeah.
And what happens is that there was a dairy, and then Unigate Dairies had it, and they eventually bought it. And so they used to do sort of rolls and very simple thing, just a little corner shop. They bought the thing from the dairy when they pulled it out, and then there was other places. There was where the dairy used to be based. Opposite, they went and bought that. And they bought this. And they bought that. And because it was right in the centre of Notting Hill Gate, the property, which they just bought every so often, just another little derelict little building, was worth absolutely millions.
One of my very first jobs I used to live on a road, and there was a guy, a kid same age as me, and his father was he used to go around doing up all the old offices and turning them into bedsits back in the mid 80s, 1540, yeah, so and he said, do you want a summer job? So every summer for about 3 or 4 years I'd go and help him. So me and my mate from down the road would sit in the van with his dad, who was a Romanian, thick-set, real hardcore, tough guy. I liked him though, and we used to sort of like just clean up the places and dust and everything, whatever was needed. His brother-in-law, so him and his brother-in-law used to go and buy all the property they could find in Hackney and Lower Clapton and all those places. And his brother-in-law was a guy, I won't mention just in case, but he is now the biggest landowner in London of all the properties. And I knew him, and he was quite a nice guy, but they between them bought everything. I think he was last estimated to be about £500 million worth of property, or he's worth. But so every time I see in Hatton Garden, he owns about half the properties. It's so, and I knew him when he just started.
Wow.
And I only got paid about 50 quid a month for that.
And that's why.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you get that ripple going, you can just keep on going and do it. It's simple business.
Yeah.
Just rinse and repeat.
All they did was go around buying up all these old buildings, turning them into bed sits. And he just realised that was where the money was then.
Well, I met a guy once a few years ago who was a billionaire. So he was worth about 5 billion.
Wow.
And I met him in Docklands, and he was the guy who developed Docklands. On the Isle of Dogs, all those. So what's it called? There's the HSBC building.
So Canary Wharf itself.
Yeah.
Canary Wharf itself, and he owns all the land that those are built on. But he started as an estate agent, and he did exactly what you were saying, Ian. He worked for an estate agent. He spotted an opportunity to buy a small house that was run down. He bought it with his own money, did it up, sold it for a profit, bought something bigger, and just kept repeating that and repeating it until eventually he went into buying commercial properties eventually, and he ended up with all this. I mean, just incredible.
Thinking about going back to your the story about the mold and making a game. I think my most successful business was when I was about 10 or 11. It's about 10, I think it was. I don't know if I've told the story before about my auntie came back from America, and they had this thing called creepy crawlies. If I mentioned this, and it's just a little set you put in a little oven, and you've got a little light bulb, very small little light bulb that powers and gives a bit of heat. You put this gloop in these little metal molds, and they create some little rubber worms and spiders, and also you put little gloops on, so you make different colours and spots on the back of it, beetles and things. And I tried to sell them at school, and not many people were that interested. But then my auntie came back from the States with a mould that had a lizard on it. And what was clever about it is you had a head and a tail, and then you had body sections. It was like a jigsaw puzzle sort of thing. You could just click them together. So you either had a body section with legs or a body section without legs. And what I did is I gave everybody in my class a head and a tail, and then they could buy the body sections for either a penny if they had no legs and tuppence if they had legs. And it just went mad.
Very
And
good.
then so I went to school in a strange place, and most of the kids there, their parents were either lawyers, bankers, politicians. There were a lot of ambassadors, or kids, or there was a lot of TV celebrities and sort of actors and things. So it's a strange, small little school. So there's a lot of pocket money.
Well, we're talking Eton here, are we?
No, we're talking just a funny little school just in Notting, just off Notting Hill Gate. And as these things sort of went sort of mad, other classes wanted to compete to have the biggest one of these things. So I started mail ordering this stuff, the gloop, some stuff, green stuff over from the States. It was coming over from the States, and eventually the headmaster, my dad said to me, "You've got to stop." He said, "What do you mean I've got to stop?" He said, "Yeah, the headmaster has wanted to see me, and said I was stealing all the kids' pocket money. All the parents are complaining." He said, I don't think it's good because literally there was a Russian school next door, so we had all the Russian kids over the fire escape. We even had agents in different classes taking orders. We even had some international trade going across the fire escape with the kids next door. But I said, well, I can't stop now because I've got I've got orders coming and I've got other stuff. I've got coming back.
Out.
Yeah, and I got gloop coming in from the States, and I had and I had like an international money order. I went to the post office and changed it into pounds into dollars, and I mailed it off to the States, and it was coming in and most of it. And so he said, right, okay, no, but it's got to stop. That's it. Fulfill all the orders that you've taken money for. He said, but I've got I had these two big containers of gloop that was coming. So he said, okay, well, work out what your profit margin is, and I'll buy you out for twice whatever that is. So he said, I'll just cover your cost. Work out your profit margin. I'll give you twice that, or 5 times, or whatever, and that's it. Finished. So
It's
Can I
9 o'clock.
Oh,
We've got to say goodbye. I'm just going to end the broadcast so we go back into the studio.
ah,
We're going to say goodbye. It's 9 o'clock.
bye.
Bye bye.